Are you a real estate investor looking to start your first flip? Are you a passive investor looking for the next opportunity? Regardless of your situation, our mission is to help everyone work towards their unique version of financial freedom. Hello and welcome to the very first episode of the Conduit Capital podcast. My name is Adam Burrow, your host, and today I have with me the owner of Conduit Capital, Tom Olson.
I am excited to be here with you today. We have got a fund that has started up, and this podcast is going to be for investors. Possibly some flippers, may get on this. Possibly people looking to borrow money, but the most people that we're trying to reach is that investor. So we're going to be talking about a lot of things, money, and what you can do with your money, what I've been doing with my money, and hopefully we'll have a good time with this. We're just starting out with this, so give us a little bit of a break. I even got the wrong banner behind me right now. This is another one of my companies, the Olson Group Network. But I'm excited to have Adam today with us, and for Adam to have me on, and he's going to do some interviewing with me, and I'm excited to be here.
That's right. So a big part of how Conduit Capital, our company, does business is because of who our owner is. And so today we're going to get a little more background on who Tom is, but more importantly, what Conduit Capital is. So I guess the first question I have for you, Tom, is why did you start Conduit Capital?
Oh boy. So it is a long story. And I think we're going to spend most of the time today on this story, but really it started almost kind of out of necessity, out of need to help my investors. For the last 7-8 years, I have been doing deals in different companies. Olson Group is one of them, Olson Property Services, Sarah Joe, and people that know me and already invest in the things that we do kind of know a little bit about my background. I'm going to get into more of my background in the future episodes, but just kind of like how Conduit Capital itself came to be about. I basically had too many people saying, I want you to use my money. And so we thought to ourselves, man, what are we going to do? So we basically created Conduit Capital. Over the last 7 or 8 years, I've actually had my finance team look at these numbers, and we have borrowed and paid back over $50 million of people's money through those other companies that we just talked about. And it's a very easy lending process that we have done. It's mostly been one-to-one. One lender will loan us the money to purchase and repair a property, and then we get the property repaired. We sell the property to either a turnkey buyer or to a retail buyer. Sometimes we hold these properties for a longer period of time. And, sometimes our flips are really quick. We're not super great on the super quick flips, but our typical deal's always been 6, 9, 10, 12 months. Sometimes they go longer, and sometimes we've been buying houses even that, we buy them rented. So, the tenant may stay in there for a year before we even get to the house to be able to rehab the house. So sometimes they go longer, but over the years, what's kind of just happened with our other businesses is I have had, people come to me and say, hey, I've got $200,000. I want to be able to invest. I've heard what you've done. I've seen you speak. I've maybe, seen a presentation of what you do. And I want to be one of your lenders. I still remember this little lady that came up to me after a RIA, and she came up to me, and I wasn't even there to raise money. I was just there to kind of show what we were doing as a company. And I think back then we were doing a lot of rent to owns that was kind of our deal. And this was 7-8 years ago. And she came up to me and she's like, I want to loan you money. And I was like, okay, I wasn't even asking for money, but she wanted to loan me money. And since then, I think she's loaned me several $1 million over the years. So people like that will just come up to me. And honestly, like there are a lot of private lenders out there, a lot of people that are looking to do hard money loans just personally. And that's kind of been an industry that's been created over the last, 10, 15 years, really. That really wasn't a big industry, prior to the late 90s, and maybe even not even prior to 2006, 2008, I think is when this private lending world really kind of started, flourishing. 20 years ago, you used to be able to go to a bank and get a loan to do a fix and flip. And that just is not the case anymore. So, kind of this new realm of people have had to kind of fill that void. And for me, that's been those private lenders. So those private lenders, have been really good to me. I'm really appreciative of my private lenders and the trust that they've given to us. But through the years, what happens is, so back to my story about this little lady that came up to me, she came to me and told me she had $200,000, and that's the money that she wanted to loan. And I always say, hey, I don't want to take people's last $50,000. It's kind of one of my rules. Like, I don't want to take your last money. Just because things can go wrong. I've paid back every single penny that's ever been loaned to me from a credit card, from a bank, on credit, off credit. It doesn't matter. I can sit here and stand here and say I've paid back every single person that's ever loaned me money for any reason. And when you do that, and you do that several times, what happens is now that $200,000 that the lady said she had, I found out very quickly that people don't tell you the full truth. Right, Adam? Like, you probably already seen this as well. So they start by saying, I've got $200,000 to invest, and you find out very quickly they have $2 million worth of money to invest. And not only that, but they also have a sister, or they've got an uncle, or a husband, or a wife, or honestly, it's funny to me, even sometimes we have ex-spouses that people will bring in. And it happens a lot more than you would think, a lot more than I would have possibly thought. Ex-spouses actually, I'm like, I thought, do you like that person? Do you not like that person? I don't know, but obviously they're taking care of them because they're bringing them to good opportunities. So what's happened is, over the years, we really have had too many people. Right now, I can show you in our Olson group, we have a program called Podio that we have our own app built out, and we have our lenders built into there for our company. We have over 200 lenders that want to loan us money or have loaned us money. And most of those people don't get to loan us money because for the most part, I always tell my lenders, we take the squeaky wheel approach. Like, whatever the squeaky wheel is, who's ever the squeaky wheel, they're going to get the oil. And so, I just went and talked to my CFO this morning, and she told me we've got 6 people in that top of the line squeaky wheel realm, which means the next 6 deals that we have are already taken. So if that means if somebody came to me and said, hey, I wanted to loan you money, they really couldn't probably loan us money for 5-6 weeks, because we do about 1 or 2 deals a week right now. So obviously, as a way to be able to help my investors, and as a way to be able to say, hey, like, I think we can figure out a different way. I started kind of just playing with private lending myself about 4 or 5 years ago. And I had done a significant amount of deals, believe it or not. I had probably done 50 or 60 lending deals myself personally before I started thinking to myself, wow, maybe I should figure out how to bring some of my lender. And I was doing that. I started bringing some of my lenders into some of these deals personally. Then that's kind of how Conduit Capital came about. So Conduit Capital, we decided, hey, instead of all the deals having to be me and me having to be a part of every single one of the deals, why don't we create a fund? Why don't we create a way where we can take people's capital, and whenever they have the money, whenever somebody has the money and they say, hey, like, I want to be able to get this money out, I want to be able to make a consistent return on my money, we allow that. Now we only allow accredited investors right now. At some point, we may open up different offerings for that, but right now it is only for accredited investors. It's a way that, and basically what we do is we go out in the market and we find, just through a lot of the relationships that I've had over the years, and now we're getting more into the marketing of trying to, build that book of business and book of people that would come to us. But word of mouth pretty much happens quickly. We have a lot of deals that we're trying to fund right now, and a lot of people are coming to us wanting us to fund their deals. And we really make our money on the transaction itself. So that's kind of how we've kind of set this up for us to be able to make money and also be able to pay back our investors. And that's kind of, in a nutshell, like, there's maybe a little bit more to that. And we're going to get into that, I'm sure, over the next couple months and weeks or years. Right, Adam? We're going to have years of these podcasts.
That's right. We have plenty of material to last that long. That's for sure.
Yes.
And actually, something you touched on that I want to hear you dive a little deeper into is the shift from private lenders in your other companies to private lenders in Conduit Capital? Because a big shift in that is now, instead of lending money directly to your companies who have a history of paying back, now the lenders are taking on a little bit of extra risk by lending to someone who they don't know. And I think it's a testament to the owner and your network that you've been able to build up such a trusted network that they trust you to vet these borrowers and vet these deals. So I guess tell me a little bit about what you did to build that trust with your private lenders.
No, I appreciate it. That's a really good question. I would say I have been the borrower now on about 2,000 deals. And I believe one of the best ways I can raise money is to explain to a potential borrower or a potential lender, I'm sorry, how I'm going to protect them, right? So since I believe that since I've been in my shoes so many times, I kind of know the things that are going through my head. I kind of know the pitfalls, what goes wrong, what to look out for. And every single one of our deals haven't been perfect. Our lenders have always been paid back, but there's been deals where we haven't made money on every single one of our deals. So I believe that kind of that experience, along and don't get me wrong, the lending business is a little bit of a different business. There are some extra things and extra precautions that we want to put in place. And we do, honestly, like when we're dealing with Conduit Capital, there's a little bit of extra underwriting, a little bit of extra, even more so than our own personal deals, like from that lender's borrower's perspective. And we are making our borrowers have skin in the game. We are making sure that, that they've got good financials. We are pulling credit. We're doing all those extra things that normally maybe a private borrower wouldn't necessarily do. So it's kind of a mix between, what you might think of like a traditional bank, a traditional, I call them hard, there's this private lending industry, which is not really private capital. It's really Wall Street capital, but they have their own little box, so to speak, of how they loan the money out and who they'll loan money to and how it's secured, and it has to kind of fit in this nice little box. And our boxes, we have kind of our own little box. It is private equity. We are not going out at this point and borrowing extra money from Wall Street or bringing extra money in from banks. And I do know a lot of people that do what we do will go out and borrow against the money that they have in their fund to be able to do more. Right now, we're not planning on that. We're planning on staying just straight 1-to-1, private equity. And I think people like that. Honestly, I think there's two things that people really like. People like the fact that they're getting double-digit returns, and that's right. Like, who doesn't like double-digit returns? They like the fact that they're getting monthly payments, so they know right away if something's not going right. And I believe that they having somebody that's been in the business for as long as we've been in the business and has done as many deals as we've done, I hope. I'm not going to say that we're never going to have a pitfall and we're never going to not see something, but I hope that experience goes a long way to kind of help people understand that we are trying to be a good steward of their money, just like we would want if it was our own money.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touched on a good point there, talking about how involved our process is in vetting the deals, but also vetting the borrowers. And I think that poses something interesting to potential investors, is that no one out there is offering a guaranteed investment. I remember one of the first lessons you taught me almost 3 years ago when we started working together was never say the word guaranteed, because investments are always inherently risky. And especially in real estate, as you and I both know, and maybe some of our listeners have been involved in this too, anything and everything can and will go wrong. So there's nothing guaranteed, but we put a lot of effort to making sure that any risk that can be mitigated is taken into account. Absolutely. So I really liked that you touched on that. And then one final thing I want to get into on this episode, I know we could probably talk for hours we do talk for hours. We're just on camera right now. But I want you to talk a little bit about Conduit Capital's mission, as well as the mission, of your other companies. So kind of why do you think Conduit Capital exists, and why did you bring it into existence?
Well, I kind of feel like every one of the companies kind of has its own little purpose, its own little thing that it does, what customer it serves. And if we're talking about that, like what are we trying to accomplish with Conduit Capital? Me and you have talked about this many times. We are really trying to help you reach financial freedom or whatever that means for you. So whatever financial freedom means for you as the investor or even as a borrower, that's really what Conduit Capital's mission is. We're really that's what we're trying to do. Now, on a bigger picture, and I hope to get into this a lot deeper on future podcasts, but I do have two big goals in my life, and one is to give away $1 billion, and one is to flip the city of Gary, Indiana. So a lot of what we do, if something doesn't help me reach one of those two goals, it's kind of one of my filters that I don't really want. I say, no, I don't want to do this anymore. There's been things that I've created over the years, and I said, I need to stop doing this because it doesn't fit in those realms. And honestly, I am really looking for people that are generous givers. I really am. I love to work with people that are givers. And it's not because I think I'm all that great. I will tell you, I will work as hard as anybody else will. I do tell you that I will tell you that I, do want what's best for our customers and for our investors and even our tenants and even any of the other things. Like we really do want to build community. Gary, Indiana is a place that, my hope is that people want to move there instead of move away. And, businesses thrive. And, I feel like we've taken actually great strides over the last 5 years. It's got a long way to go. I'm not here saying it's anywhere near done. I believe it's a 40, 80 year mission type of deal. And honestly, the whole giving goal that I have is so big. I'm not even sure how it's even possible that I'll reach it. I've literally been tracking this since I was 12 years old. I have a spreadsheet every single year of and not because I want to ever let anybody know how much money's in there. The only people that know how much is on there, nobody in my company knows except for me and my personal assistant who helps me with that. It's nothing to brag about. It's really just something I do to try to keep track. And I feel like if you ever have a goal, you got to keep track of it, right? So it's not really a goal unless you're tracking it. So as far as why we do it and who we serve and what mission we're trying to accomplish, those are the individual missions for Conduit Capital and kind of my big picture as well.
Absolutely. And we will definitely get deeper into your story and how you got to be where you are today and what that looks like. And after so many years of doing business in your other companies and trying to bring your vision of flipping the city of Gary to life, Conduit Capital presents a unique alternative where now that we've gotten to the point where we have all these private lenders, well, let's help other people that in our area that share our same vision to help us. And maybe they'll be able to cut that 40 to 80 year, vision in half.
That'd
right?
be great.
Yeah. So that has been the first episode of the Conduit Capital podcast. What is Conduit Capital? Thank you again, Tom, so much for coming on and being our first guest.
I love being in it. I hope you guys enjoy the podcast to come. If there's anything I can ever do for you personally, I don't mind giving you my the best email for me to reach me on this first episode is TOlson. That's TOLSON @goodsuccess.com. That's a personal email of mine. And if you ever have any questions or comments, please get with me. If you are interested in investing in the fund, you can go to uconduitcapital.com. And also on there, it's a really cool way to be able to have a conversation with Adam, who's on here. Right now, he helps run the fund and he helps the investors. He also helps the borrowers right now. Maybe that will change in the future as we grow. But right now, that's the best way. And you can set up a phone call right there on the website. It's super easy. So just go to the website, uconduitcapital.com, and set up an interview with Adam if you're a borrower or if you're interested in investing in the fund.
That's right. We are always interested in hearing from anyone who has questions about what we do or how we do it. Also, our question of the day today is, what are your financial goals? We mentioned that Conduit Capital's goal is to help all of our investors reach their version of financial freedom. So we would love to hear from all of you in the comments. What are you shooting for? What is your end goal for, your finances. So leave those comments down below and we'll try to look at everything we can and respond to what we can. But we'd love that interaction from all of you.
So what is it again? What's the question?
What are your financial goals?
What are your financial goals? Adam, we're going to answer this question on the next podcast. So make sure you tune in to the next podcast of the Conduit Capital podcast, and we will answer that for ourselves and for our company as well. So what are your financial goals? The question of the day.
Yes, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what Tom's are, even though I might know some of them already. So finally, make sure to follow us on all of our social media at the Conduit Capital Podcast. We are on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. And remember to always be a conduit and not a bucket.
Work to have to give. Have a good day, guys.
Thank you for tuning in to our podcast today. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to stay up to date with all of our latest content, please follow us on social media. You can find us on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram at Conduit Capital Podcast. We love hearing from our listeners, so feel free to send us a message, leave a comment, or share your thoughts with us.